Lucy's first love came back home after getting a divorce, 2 years after we got married. That night, she didn't come home for the first time ever. Back then, Lucy's dad offered me $500,000 to leave her, but I didn't take it. Now, I've figured it out. I'm ready to take the deal, just raising the price to $1 million to walk away. After all, the son-in-law he preferred is now single. If I step aside, he'll be thrilled. At 6 a.m., I knocked on my father-in-law's door. 10 minutes later, the whole house was in an uproar. 2 hours later, Lucy received the signed divorce papers from me. That night, while I was getting down on the dance floor with my sister at a bar, Lucy's people came and shut it down. "David, why aren't you making breakfast? Why are you stirring up trouble so early in the morning?" My father-in-law yelled, looking at me standing at the door with his messy hair. "You're wearing something so flashy, aren't you ashamed? You're embarrassing our family." He was really angry, pointing at my clothes. Lucy always liked guys in white shirts and suits. Her dad said that being her husband meant no tank tops or shorts, it'd embarrass them. For 2 years, I'd almost forgotten I had a body worth showing off instead of letting it go to waste. Seeing I didn't respond, he thought I chickened out again and started lecturing. "Go upstairs, change, then go make breakfast. We're having Chinese this morning." I brushed his finger aside and said, "Sir, let's do some business." "What did you call me?" He looked at me weirdly. "David, are you possessed?" Sometime later, I was on the sofa with Mr. Richard opposite me, with his messy hair and tired face. The always proud old man was losing his cool for the 3rd time today. "You're asking me for $1 million, and then you'll divorce Lucy?" My brother-in-law Jason smirked at me. "David, you're so obsessed with my sister, are you really willing to let go?" I ignored him. "Yeah, 2 years ago you offered me $500,000 to leave Lucy. I didn't take it. Now, I think it over. But Lucy's value has doubled marrying me, so a double for me isn't too much, right?" "You're nuts, Lucy. Call Lucy down here." Arms crossed, I leaned back on the sofa, smiled, and said, "You don't need to call her. She didn't come back last night. If I'm right, Evan's return home kept her busy all night." Mr. Richard's face changed instantly. Jason was thrilled. "Evan's back? No wonder my sister was in such a good mood yesterday." Mr. Richard glared at him, and Jason quickly shut up. "Cheating during marriage, it's a scandal they prefer to avoid. You liked him so much back then. Now you can be father and son. $1 million's not unreasonable, right?" I tapped the table, pushing the divorce papers toward him. "Agree to my terms, and I'll leave with nothing." Mr. Richard snatched the papers. True enough, they clearly stated David, would leave with nothing. Yet he looked suspicious. "David, what are you scheming? I can't believe you'd let go so easily." I shook my head, sighed, how to put it, like a toothbrush someone used to clean a toilet. "Would you still want it back?" My analogy grossed him out. Looking disgusted, "You, from a humble background? No wonder Lucy never liked you in 2 years. How can you compare to Evan?" "Well, I'm giving you the opportunity now. Think about it." "Dad, what's there to consider? Just agree." Jason urged quickly. He was close with Evan, so naturally, he didn't like me. But it didn't matter to me. Before, I let things slide since he was my brother-in-law. Now he's just anyone, not my problem. In 10 minutes, I secured the funds. Then I went upstairs to grab my already packed bag. When I came down, almost everyone from Lucy's family was in the living room, including my normally stern mother-in-law. She was actually pretty nice to me, never gave me grief, and looked after my family. So when I was leaving, I only acknowledged her. "Mom, this is my last time calling you that. Take care of yourself, especially your legs. Keep warm in winter. Have the staff make you some soup often." I watched as she sighed, then motioned for me to come closer. Right in front of everyone, she handed me a card. "It's another $1 million, not much. Take it." I thought to myself, well, love's gone, wife's gone, but hey, 20 million is not bad. Counting the zeros alone would take a while. My old man would need 2 decades to earn this much. I didn't object and accepted it graciously. "Thanks, Mom." "Shameless," Jason muttered under his breath. I was in a better mood, didn't care to argue. I pocketed the card, bid my farewell to my mother-in-law, and rolled my suitcase out the door. 2 hours later, the divorce papers, signed and all, got delivered by Lucy's assistant to her office. "Lucy, Mr. David sent these over, said if you agree, let him know." Lucy was so busy she didn't even look up. "Put it aside for now, I don't have time." "Lucy, you should really take a look," her assistant gently insisted. Lucy frowned for a moment, but when her eyes caught the bold letters divorce papers on the page, her hand froze mid-signature. Lucy picked up a few thin sheets of paper, flipped through them a bit, and her gaze finally landed on David's signature. But after a moment, she tossed the divorce papers at her secretary. "Call him," she said. "Tell him I'll be home by 8 tonight." "But aren't you supposed to welcome Evan tonight?" Lucy raised an eyebrow. "Make the call." The secretary didn't delay and quickly nodded. Unfortunately, not only had I blocked Lucy, but I also blocked everyone around her. If her German Shepherd had a social media account, I'd block that too. Lucy, it seems Mr. David has blocked me. The secretary's voice trembled slightly. Lucy looked even more stern. She reached for her phone and hit David's name directly. Poor thing, she didn't even know she was the first one to get blocked. Lucy put down the phone, took out a pack of cigarettes, and lit one. You can leave, she said, dismissing the secretary. After finishing her smoke, Lucy collected herself and got back to work. But then Jason called. Great news. You finally got rid of that David, and you can now be with Evan. No more avoiding home just because you can't stand him. Aren't you excited? Jason, talk to me. What did David do this time? Lucy stood up, running a hand through her hair in mild frustration. She'd only been out for one night, and David had gone this far. Did he even think about what he'd do if she actually signed the divorce papers? David asked Dad for $1 million and agreed to the divorce. He's gone now, but credit where it's due, he only took his personal stuff and left Lucy's things untouched. I need to share the good news with Evan. Jason was still excited, but the call abruptly ended. Lucy grabbed her purse and headed out. Where is David now? She asked the secretary. Sorry Lucy, we don't know. Mr. David blocked all our numbers. Lucy felt anger boiling inside but quickly calmed down. Didn't he say to let him know once I sign the papers? The secretary glanced at Lucy's expression, hesitated, then said, Mr. David said once you sign, you can meet him at the Civil Affairs office on Monday at 9 a.m. He promised not to be late. Lucy stood there, her face growing colder. After a moment, she took off her glasses and handed them to her assistant. Track down Mr. David's whereabouts and inform me. Yes, Lucy. Should I prepare for the meeting now? Lucy nodded and went back to her office. Today's project was extremely important, involving K Group's development for the next 5 years. She'd been working tirelessly for days, even pulling an all-nighter at the office last night to get it done. Work was always Lucy's top priority, and she couldn't play along with David's antics this time. Meanwhile, I was in the apartment my dad gifted me before marriage. David, that's enough. My buddy Tom couldn't hold it in anymore. I'm divorced now. I'm only 25, but I've become an unwanted divorcee and my worth has plummeted. I know I'll remarry, but if I can't find someone wealthier than Lucy, everyone will mock me. Let's go out for drinks tonight, Tom suggested. My brother's bar just opened, and it's packed with the city's beauties. I looked up. Are they really that pretty? Prettier than Lucy? Okay, maybe not prettier, but at least younger, more lively, and ready to make you happy. Haven't you heard? College girls are softer than water. Tom was a bit annoyed, pulling me up from the floor. Come on, why don't you change into a nice suit and we'll go let loose? I hesitated a bit, then agreed. It had been 2 years and a month since I last wore a suit. Before marrying Lucy, I was lively every day. I first met Lucy on a blind date that my dad's people practically dragged me to. It was the height of summer, and she showed up in her business attire, looking every bit like she just stepped away from a negotiation table. Me? I had highlighted hair. My dad nearly choked when he saw me walk in with my dyed hair, struggling to say nice things about me to Lucy. Lucy didn't react much. She simply stood up, pulling out a chair for me. I wasn't looking to get married, so I was carefree, eating and drinking without trying to act the part of a mature man. My dad was giving me signals that could pop his eyeballs out, but I just ignored him. After the meal, Lucy politely offered to drive me home. Her reserved nature didn't match with my youthful playfulness, so I figured there was no chance. But it surprised me when Lucy asked me out a few more times. My dad was thrilled, thinking she had a good impression of me and that this marriage could work. I yelled at my dad, she likes me, but I don't like her. She's an old cow who wants to eat young grass. Dad shut me down with one line, your rival Tony is itching to marry her and he's already trying to get matchmakers on it. I got worked up at the thought of Tony liking her. If Tony wanted it, I had to have it first. I started dating Lucy intending to one-up Tony, but within a few months, I fell hard. I fell in love with her, my young heart burning brightly with passion that consumed me. She calmly took over my entire world, molding me into the person my dad always dreamed of making me into. Because of her, I happily changed. Then one day, I found a photo on her computer of her and Evan from their school days. Evan was as good-looking as his name implied, standing in the photo between Lucy and another girl who faded into the background. Evan's smile directed at Lucy pinned my gaze. Turns out, Lucy didn't like me, David. Turns out, even Lucy has an old-school first love. Back then, I was head over heels for her, but I didn't even have the guts to ask her. I was scared that if I questioned her, my happiness would pop like a soap bubble, and I'd be the one popping it. Besides, Evan already got married before Lucy and I tied the knot. So deep down, I felt kinda relieved. But now, Evan's divorced and back. I think about how Lucy was comforting him last night, staying with him all night, and I can't help but cry. Tom pulled me into the closet quickly, grabbed a flashy shirt, and stuffed it into my arms. Then, he mysteriously handed me a new jacket. Try this on. Look at you, you've lost weight and you're all skin and bones. Put it on, and even a gay guy would go straight for you. Holding the shirt, I sniffled and looked at Tom. I don't know, man. I'm not a teenager anymore. Shouldn't I tone it down a bit? Tom practically rolled his eyes at me. David, you're only 25. A young man at 25. Save the growing up for when you're 52, okay? So there we were, two 25-year-old guys, one of us in black and one in white, strutting into the bar. At first, I was a bit shy. I'd been all reserved and proper for 2 years, so suddenly letting loose felt weird. But after a drink, my mindset changed. I already signed the divorce papers, and I'm sure Lucy can't wait to sign, too. Next Monday, a trip to the Civil Affairs Bureau, and we'll be done for good. She suddenly married me back then, probably because Evan's marriage shook her up. I pouted, holding back tears, pulling my collar down a bit, feeling unsteady as Tom and I made our way to the dance floor. In the dance floor, packed with people dancing close, girls with girls, guys with guys, I soon found that carefree feeling. A pretty girl came over to chat. I gave her a side glance. She looked decent, her eyes weirdly like Lucy's, so I grabbed her collar. Her hand immediately wrapped around my waist, and we started dancing close, just like everyone else. I wasn't quite used to being this close to a stranger, so I instinctively wanted to push her hand away. But suddenly, the music stopped, and everyone looked around in surprise. A bunch of men in black suits, looking like bodyguards, poured into the bar. Servers and bar security were pushed into a corner. The bodyguards came straight over, surrounding the dance floor. What's going on? Yeah, what's the deal here? Who are they after? The shock sobered me up. They had to be after me, I reckoned, because I saw Lucy striding through the crowd. She wasn't wearing glasses, with a very stern face, and my heart clenched. I instinctively wanted to hide behind someone, but Lucy's gaze had already cut through the crowd and landed on my face. I was too scared to meet her eyes. I turned to run. David. Lucy called my name, and I know her. The angrier she is, the calmer her voice. When we had just married, I secretly drank, and when she caught me, she called my name just like this. That night was unforgettable. I lay on the couch for 2 days afterward to recuperate, but I learned my lesson and was obedient for a long time. Lucy seemed happy and showered me with branded gifts to appease me. My feet were glued to the spot, and it was only then that I remembered that the girl's hand was still on my waist. In an instant, my hair stood on end, and I started to tremble. Lucy frowned deeply, looking some kind of fierce. She walked over, and her bodyguards brutally parted the people in front of me. Her eyes traced slowly from my face to my waist. To be exact, to the girl's hand. Sensing danger, I was about to speak up, but Lucy suddenly grabbed the girl's wrist and shoved her aside. There was a small gasp from the crowd. Shrinking my neck, my eyes darted around, like a scared little quail. I fear Lucy's anger, to be honest, because I love her so much. Her mood affects me more than anything. When she's unhappy, it feels like the sky is falling. But now we're divorcing, aren't we? Thinking that gave me a strange courage. I lifted my head to meet her gaze. In the dim dance floor, a single spotlight cast down, showing off my exposed abs. Lucy's assistants and bodyguards kept their heads down, blocking others' view neatly. But tonight, plenty of women had already seen me. I'd never seen Lucy with this terrifying expression. It almost made me think. She looked like someone who had lost something precious, but I was never her treasure. My eyes began to fill with tears. I fought the pain in my heart, stubbornly raising my chin. Lucy, what's up? Lucy stared at me for a few seconds, then suddenly took off her jacket, stepping forward to wrap it around me. I twisted around, wanting to shake off the jacket, but she held me tight. David, whatever it is, let's talk at home. I could feel that Lucy was holding back her temper for me, but it just made me feel more wronged. She came to find me, probably just because she thought I embarrassed her. After all, we're not officially divorced, so I'm technically still her husband. Lucy, I'm not going back with you. I refused to leave, breaking free from her hold. Lucy furrowed her brow, holding my shoulder through her jacket to keep me from shrugging it off. David, how long are you going to keep this up? I'm not acting up. I've made up my mind. The divorce papers are signed, Lucy. Can't you read, or what? There was dead silence around us. Even Lucy's close assistants and bodyguards were staring at me in astonishment. Once again, I shook off her hand, yanking the jacket off and hurling it at her. So we're done. You can stop meddling. That move, no doubt, ticked her off. Her face became even sterner, and I was actually scared. I feared that I'd embarrass her, and she'd lose it and hit me. Though, in all our time married, she had never raised her voice at me. I bit down on my lip, stubbornly refusing to bow down. But I couldn't look at Lucy anymore. Looking at her made me feel wronged. Seeing her made my heart soften, made me reluctant. She was just too beautiful, especially when angry, perfectly hitting every note of what I find most attractive in a woman. Thinking back now, there were reasons I used to provoke her just to see her angry. Married to Lucy for 2 years, I was still caught up in that honeymoon phase. And my infatuation with her only grew deeper day by day. She's got this calm, quiet vibe, doesn't like to laugh much. My dad calls it a sign of a mature woman, steady, composed. But I know better. She just doesn't like me. Well, maybe not completely dislike. As long as she's home and I'm not sick, she expects me to fulfill my husband duties almost every night. I'm diving deep into it, all the while painfully aware that I'm walking off a cliff. When the day comes that she doesn't need me anymore, I'll be shattered to pieces. I fear pain and am terrified of dying, more so now that I have this 20 million and can't die. I need to stay away from her, stop falling for her tricks. I fight back tears, take a deep breath, and look away. Lucy, if you're good, you should leave. A place like this doesn't suit someone like you. Any misstep, and her dad would scold me for being petty, not being a good match for her, embarrassing their family. I haven't set foot in a bar for 2.5 years. But now, I'm not her husband anymore. She can't say a word about it. Maybe I looked on the verge of tears, and that left Lucy a bit helpless. David, you're giving me the silent treatment. You gonna tell me why? Why? She got the nerve to ask why. She keeps pictures of her and her first love on her computer. Used K-Group's top legal team to help Evan with his international divorce case. On my birthday last year, she claimed she had a work meeting abroad, but Jason found a photo Evan posted on Twitter. While I celebrated alone, she was having tea with Evan. She turned me into Evan 2.0 to soothe her heartache. She carries another man in her heart and exhausts me every night. The moment Evan returned from his divorce, she didn't come home the first night. Now I've done what I had to, and she's questioning why. My heart aches with all this unjust treatment, the words stuck in my throat. All I can do is let my tears fall. Maybe seeing me cry so miserably softened Lucy's stance a little. David, come back home with me. She draped her coat over me again. I push her away hard. Lucy, don't touch me. Your touch makes me sick. She stayed silent, her face stern and accusatory, as if I was the cheater ruining the marriage. I didn't want to see her anymore. I turned and stumbled away with Luke. Lucy didn't follow. Just when I left, I heard her phone ring. Her voice was soft, but to me, grating. Probably Evan. So, no burdens for their meeting tonight. I crashed at Luke's place that night. After a shower, I threw myself on the bed, shut my phone off, cried it out, and slept like a log. Luke's a good friend. Knows when I need space, only bringing me food, no questions asked. Up bright and early Monday, showered, donned a new suit. Luke offered to drive me to the registration office, but I refused. This is Lucy and me tying up loose ends ourselves, even if it's for divorce papers. Though I look all carefree, nobody knows how torn I feel inside. Before leaving, I check my phone, loads of texts, Instagram messages, and missed calls. Lucy only sent one IG message the other night. David, Monday, 9 a.m. Meet you at the registration office. Seeing it almost set me off again. My hand shook as I held the phone, but I've gotta look my best for this divorce. That rival Tony's probably eager to poke fun, alongside little snake Jason, all ready to join in. Even if I end up a divorcee, I'm aiming to be the sharpest dressed one in town. Jason and I weren't always enemies. Post-marriage with Lucy, we'd hit the courts sometimes. I even got him little gifts. Once, he really wanted the jade watch Lucy gave me. He nagged so much I finally handed it over, even though I felt the sting. Lucy saw him with that watch, and said one thing, give the watch back to your brother-in-law. You're not as fair as him, can't pull it off. That one line wrecked everything between Jason and me. For guys, it only takes one you don't stack up comment to create lifelong rivals. He didn't miss a chance to mess with me these past years. I let it slide. But now, if he tries another move, I'm not holding back. Breathed deep, got the emotions in check, headed for the car. Arrived at the registration office by 8:40. Lucy, always the punctual one, wouldn't be late by even a minute when she said 9. Sure enough, 9 sharp, her Bentley pulled up. She stepped out, making a beeline for my car. I walked into the registration office, ignoring her presence entirely. Lucy walked with me to the lobby. We were the only couple there for a divorce today. Lucy, you cleared the place out again? I recalled Luke murmuring this morning that his brother's bar was shut down temporarily due to disrupting familial harmony. Totally got the wrong end of the stick, but with Lucy pulling the strings, nothing to be done. Just have to wait it out. Luke joked about Lucy doing it as some romantic gesture for me, but I had no illusions. Her family's all about maintaining their precious image. Signed the papers yet? I asked her with my chin up. Lucy didn't look so great. Why the sudden divorce? She didn't answer, but threw the question back. It's not sudden. I've thought about it a while. I could be calm now. David, did you fall for someone else? Seriously? She messed up first, and now she'd pin it on me? Lucy, don't you dare. She looked at me so calmly. If that's not it, then why the divorce? Do I have to air your dirty laundry? My foot tapped hard with anger. What's this supposed dirty laundry of mine? Her brows arched slightly, her voice still calm. Shameless, utterly shameless. I could just slap her with all my strength. Because of Evan? I felt like I'd been hit in my weak spot and went silent instantly. I pursed my lips, my eyes red as I looked at her. Yes, because of Evan. What's he got to do with it? He's back in the country, getting divorced, and you're tagging along with him? David, I can tolerate my husband's whims, his occasional mischief, even if he gets into trouble outside, but there are limits. She seemed a bit tired, raising her hand to rub her brow. You've caused enough trouble. You should come back with me now. It felt like I was watching my own heart being tossed to the ground and stomped on. So, I'm still the one causing trouble? She still thinks I'm just being unreasonable. I don't know how to make her understand. Lucy, David doesn't want to love you anymore. Doesn't want to be your husband. He doesn't want to be unloved, to be an afterthought to you. But seeing her looking a bit tired now still makes me sad. I see her wearing the shirt I picked out, the ribbon I bought, even her underwear and socks are ones I hand wash for her. I haven't washed my dad's socks. I love her so much. She only needed to call me husband again or hug me once more, and I'd cave in disgracefully. But she's too lazy to even appease me. Evan's back, and a woman only shows gentleness and patience to the man she loves. David, you're pathetic. Your wife doesn't love you. Her affair with Evan is suffocating me. I took a deep breath, clinging to the last bit of my dignity, lifting my chin to keep my cool. Lucy, how many times do I have to say it before you get it? I want a divorce, and there's no negotiating. David, you better think it through. Divorce isn't a game. I know, Lucy. From the moment I brought up divorce with you, I was clear-headed about it, and I'm not changing my mind. She looked at me deeply, and then, after a moment, laughed to herself. I don't know why she suddenly laughed like that. I have no mind to figure it out anymore. Because she said, all right. The divorce process went fast since I wasn't after any of her assets, so it was straightforward. When the staff stamped the divorce papers, Lucy gave me one last look. David, I was in a haze. Please hurry. I'm in a rush. She didn't speak again. We got the divorce papers quickly. With mine in hand, I put on sunglasses and walked briskly out. Lucy seemed to be behind me the whole time. Maybe I imagined it, since there's only one exit. She naturally would take the same path. I got in my car and left without looking in her direction. It wasn't until I hit a stoplight at an intersection that it really hit me. Looking at the divorce papers, I finally broke down, gripping the steering wheel and crying my heart out. I was blocking the cars behind, but I couldn't care less. It wasn't until a traffic cop approached me that I managed to pull myself together and drive away. I went back to my apartment bought by my dad before the marriage. After a shower and change into lounging clothes, I sat hugging a teddy bear, staring blankly. But not even 10 minutes passed before my phone started ringing off the hook. I didn't want to look or answer, but whoever it was wouldn't give up, didn't pause for a second. My head was splitting, forcing me to reach for the phone to turn it off. Then a name appeared, Tony. Instantly, every fiber in me for a fight woke up. Clutching the phone, like some crouching beast, fierce and ready. Tony wants to see me, David, make a fool of myself? Yeah, in another lifetime maybe. I hit answer, ready to throw down, totally on edge. But Tony said something that I couldn't have seen coming. David, you're nuts, right? You divorced Lucy for Linda? I was floored. What Linda? Why would it be because of Linda? Linda and I broke up ages ago. She's my first love, but I was too young then to understand love. I pretty much forgot about her. David, are you out of your mind? Linda just announced her split from Tim and is back to start a business. Meanwhile, you divorced Lucy? Tony was beyond worked up in his call. Why was he mad about my divorce? Isn't it good news for him since he likes Lucy that much? David, how could you? The woman I've wanted to marry even if I had to beg, and you just marry her then ditch her like it's nothing. Why her and not me? It's just because you're a tad better looking, a bit more handsome. What else have you got on me? Why would Lucy rebound on you and not me after getting heartbroken? Turns out, everyone knew her sudden marriage had been because of a heartbreak. Everyone except me. I was clueless, joyfully marrying her, playing husband. The night before marrying her, I was so excited I couldn't stop tossing and turning. Thinking back, everyone in this goddamn city must have looked at me like I was an idiot. I hung up the phone. At this point, I couldn't even cry anymore, staring blankly at the teddy bear in front of me. It was a gift during that year of dating, something I asked Lucy to give me. She thought it was childish and absurd, but still bought it for me. I treasured it, couldn't sleep without it. But now, screw it, I don't even want you, teddy bear. I grabbed it by the ear and jumped up to throw it out the door. But as soon as I opened the door, there was Linda with her soulful and graceful face. She beamed a bright smile at me, opening her arms to hug me. David, I'm back. As she hugged me, the elevator doors behind her slowly opened. Lucy's figure gradually came into view. The teddy bear I was holding slipped from my grip and hit the floor with a soft thud. David, what's going on? Linda asked gently, her voice soft. I was frozen in place. Words failed me, couldn't lift a hand to push her away. I could only stand there, staring at the emotionless Lucy. Linda eventually sensed something amiss, let go of me, and turned to look behind her. Her warm, smiling eyes met Lucy's and slowly vanished. Lucy's eyes held a thin layer of frost that could freeze anyone instantly. I started trembling, stumbling backward to shut the door and hide. But Linda, ever the chaos stirrer, grabbed my wrist. Instinctively, I glanced at Lucy. Her face was so thunderous it was terrifying. Lips tightly pressed, I could feel she was gritting her teeth. David. Lucy called my name but didn't say anything else. Suddenly, it was like I got shocked and I quickly let go of Linda's hand. It's not what you think. I didn't know she was at the door. I stammered, trying to explain, but the more I rushed, the less sense I made. Lucy, I really had no clue how to explain how these two women just happened to show up back to back. One was my recently divorced ex-wife, and the other was my old first love. And, of course, even Tony thinks I divorced Lucy because of Linda. As fate would have it, Lucy caught me hugging Linda right after the divorce. I was at my wit's end with everything that had been happening, completely drained. So, I just threw my hands up and yelled at them, I don't care anymore. Think whatever you want. After I shouted, I turned to head back to the apartment, but suddenly everything started spinning wildly in front of me. At that moment, scenes from hundreds of cheesy romance novels with overly dramatic plots flooded my mind. I just let myself flop down and smartly aimed my fall towards my teddy bear on the ground. In case neither of them decided to catch me in slow motion, I'd have a soft landing. David. I heard Linda calling frantically as I closed my eyes. But the arms catching me had that familiar scent of tobacco and a hint of lime. Just as I was about to hit the ground, they steadied me. It was Lucy's embrace. With that, I felt a wave of relief wash over me and kept my eyes shut until we were in the car. Lucy sternly told the driver to head to the hospital, and I finally opened my eyes, tugging lightly on her sleeve. Lucy looked down at me. I wriggled out of her hold. I was faking it. I'm fine, really, no need for a hospital. David. Lucy's face was seriously scary. My gaze shifted away as I explained, it was a misunderstanding earlier. I didn't know she was outside my door. She hugged me the moment I opened it, and I didn't even have time to push her away before you showed up. You're explaining this to me? Well, yeah, I can't just get slapped with an affair accusation out of nowhere. I looked her in the eyes, and for the record, after we broke up, Linda and I had no contact. The divorce has nothing to do with her. Protecting her now, are you? What are you even talking about? I'm just speaking the truth. David, you better not be lying to me. Lucy's voice was icy. If there's nothing wrong, get out. My heart felt a sharp sting just then. I bit my lip, glanced at her, and then silently opened the car door to leave. I didn't turn back, so I didn't see Lucy watching my back through the window, her gaze lingering long after I disappeared from view. I was in a funk for the whole next week. Linda kept trying to reach out, but I refused to see her. I stayed in until Frank asked me to go clothes shopping with him. We both went nuts and bought a ton of stuff. Yeah, shopping makes not just women happy, it works on us guys too. Suddenly, there he was. Evan appeared out of nowhere. I looked up to see him giving me an apologetic look. David, he called my name. But we're not close, so why is he calling me like we're buddies? Do you need something? Can we talk? Nope. David, I know you must really hate me. Evan's voice had a slight tremor. I changed my tone to be friendly. Evan, what do you want to talk about? Over there seems quiet. Let's go. Evan nodded obediently. Sure, I'll follow your lead. I exchanged a look with Frank, and both of us saw the same word in each other's eyes. Impressive. No wonder Lucy cared so much about him. This soft puppy type, if I were a girl, I'd like him too. Feeling a bit jealous, I thought about how silly my own attempts to play cute might have seemed to Lucy. Evan was so natural, so smooth. No wonder even after over 2 years of marriage, Lucy still didn't fall for me. I followed behind Evan. David, I know it's my fault you and Lucy got divorced. Evan got straight to the point. I smiled. Yeah, all thanks to you. Evan paused, but soon his eyes were getting all teary as he gently held my hand. David, please don't get it wrong. Lucy and I are just old classmates. All the stuff she's done for me was just friendly gestures for an old friend. And whatever little there was between us was ages ago. You really shouldn't sweat it. But believe me, when I heard you were getting divorced, my heart was heavy with guilt. If my situation caused a rift between you and her, I'd never forgive myself. Since you get it so well, why did you stay so close to a married woman? If you're feeling guilty, why'd you let her spend the night? Is sleeping with someone else's wife that thrilling? Evan froze again. David, you've misunderstood. Misunderstood what? You two were just under the same sheets, talking? I was just feeling down because of the divorce, plus struggling with the whole moving back adjustment thing. Lucy stayed because she was worried. Tears looked ready to spill from Evan's eyes. David, you must not misunderstand. Lucy and I are clean. We didn't do anything wrong. If we were ever going to be how you think, I'd have married her back then. David, Lucy is really busy now with her career. This is not the time to mess things up for her. You're 25 now, not a kid anymore. Lucy used to say you were just young and naive, but after 2 years of marriage, it's time to grow up. Evan was earnestly advising me. Frankly, if I didn't know he was my ex's lover, I'd be moved. Even my dad wasn't this patient. You done? Got anything else to add? If not, I'm out of here. David, I'm just trying to help. I don't want to see your marriage fall apart. Lucy is one of the most important people in my life, and I want her to be happy. We've already divorced, Evan. If you want to make her happy, go ahead and be her second husband. Marry her. She'll be thrilled, her dad will be happy, and her brother, who gets along with you, will be happy too. You guys are just one happy family. Go ahead, Evan. Join their family and make life harmonious again. Congrats. I'm already clapping for you. I kept smiling at him. Yet, my hands behind my back were clenched so tight it hurt. The pain almost killed me, but I wouldn't cry in front of him. Lucy told her first love I was worthless. Sure, I'm childish, immature, and inexperienced. But who made you marry me? Who made you promise to be good to me and take care of me? Later, you started to see me as too immature. But these 2 years of marriage, I diligently made breakfast, handled chores, even did laundry for Jason. I shopped with your mom, carried bags, played cards, poured her water, went with your dad for checkups, and learned to make soup. When you drank too much, I made hangover soup for you. When you traveled for work, I missed you so much that I cried at night, but I wouldn't disturb your work. I didn't even dare to video call you. In 2 years of marriage, you spent so little time at home. My world shifted from revolving around you to revolving around your family. Even when they treated me badly, I endured it because I loved you. Every so often, I acted a little spoiled, wanting a bit of tenderness from my wife. But you always seemed so distant, only kind when you wanted something. Once out of bed, you were cold and businesslike. How am I supposed to mature and understand things better? These 2 years haven't been happy, and now that I've decided to divorce, your flirty side guy's being sarcastically mean. Why should I put up with that? Evan, if you keep provoking me, I might just snap and show you what I can do. Even a clay doll has some spirit. But Evan didn't give me the chance. Maybe what I said really got to him. He turned pale and started crying so miserably. I was at a loss and turned to Dino for help. Evan reached out to me, and I instinctively thought he might hit me, so I pushed his arm away. He stumbled and crumpled to the floor. Dino rushed over, and we were about to help him up when Evan moaned softly, "David, please, call an ambulance." Dino quickly looked at me, and in that brief shock, everything clicked for me. Lucy and Evan hadn't rekindled their old flame just that night. They met up last year on my birthday abroad. This year, Lucy even went abroad on a business trip. She worked her heart out helping Evan with his divorce case, financially and otherwise. So, Evan and her, all my forced bravery, acting like I didn't care, being carefree, it all shattered in that moment. I stood there, eyes blurred. My tears flowed freely, but my throat felt like it was gripped by an invisible hand, choking me, unable to cry or make a sound. The grip was so tight I couldn't breathe, my heart twisted painfully. I couldn't imagine those images, couldn't bear to think of her with Evan. I couldn't think of how she kissed him or how she whispered love to him in intimate moments. Evan was taken to the hospital, and the nurse wheeled him in for tests. When I returned from the restroom, I saw Lucy rushing out of the elevator towards the examination room, her back radiating worry and urgency. I suddenly felt weak and leaned against the wall. Only when she was out of sight did I turn around and leave, defeated. On my way back, my mom called. "David, why on earth are you divorcing Lucy?" She sounded tired. Her business had been relying on Lucy, and now that we were divorced, some of her deals fell through, costing her about $20 million. "David," she said, "what am I supposed to do?" I stood by the road, the harsh sun beating down on me. If it's not meant to be, there's no helping it. I got $20 million from the divorce, and I gave it all back to cover Mom's losses. Even that wasn't enough. Without Lucy as a daughter-in-law, Mom's business plummeted. I couldn't bear the thought of her struggling at her age, so I started job hunting. I majored in design but lacked experience, and most applications got rejected by HR, thankfully. One mid-sized ad agency gave me a chance. The pay during my probation was low, and the work was tough. Growing up, Mom coddled me since Dad passed early. She never remarried, fearing a stepdad would mistreat me, raising me alone and never allowing hardship to touch me. This made me somewhat spoiled. The job was grueling, but I pushed through it. Yet the inner pain was hard to shake. Especially when Jason found ways to message me with photos of Evan's Twitter posts. In one, Evan looked blissfully content, captioned, "Safe and sound, grateful for someone like you in my life, always by my side." I expressionlessly blocked the number. After that, Jason, usually restless, became mysteriously quiet. I buried myself in overtime, hoping not to dwell on things alone. During a break, Dino was about to call Lucy after finding out she was 5 weeks pregnant. I was shocked and fainted on the spot. In his excitement, Dino wanted to call Lucy, but I tightly gripped his hand, stopping him. In her eyes, I'm just insignificant as her dad, let alone my kid. She doesn't love me and won't love the baby inside her. Tell her that. She'll just think I'm trying to be like Evan again. Dino looked at my pale face and couldn't help but cry. I wanted to comfort him, but as soon as I opened my mouth, tears just burst out. I don't want this kid. I don't want her to never get the perfect love, just like me. But I can't let go. She's Lucy and my baby. If she's a boy, maybe Lucy might love him a little. If she's a girl, would she be as pretty as Lucy? I curled up tightly. I was scared to keep thinking. Linda came to see me, maybe Dino told her. She still wants to get back together, but I rejected her without even thinking. David, can't you forgive me? Linda stood by the bed, heartbroken. Linda, I've always told you, the thing I hate the most in this life is betrayal, being abandoned. When you got with Tim behind my back, you should have thought of today. David, I've regretted it every moment these past years. I seriously regret it. I shook my head. You should just leave, Linda. It's just not possible for us anymore. Linda slowly raised her hand to cover her face. She knows how I am. I can't tolerate deceit. Otherwise, I wouldn't have insisted on a divorce with Lucy. Not long after Linda left, the door opened again. I didn't open my eyes, too tired. Linda, how many times do I have to say it? I'm not getting back with you. But nobody responded, and the door closed. I opened my eyes suddenly, looking towards the door. Lucy was walking over. She was still wearing glasses, probably just came from the office, looking a bit tired. She seemed thinner, with faint dark circles under her eyes. I looked away. I knew. She must have stayed up, living unhealthily again. Dino said you were in the hospital. She walked over, sat by my bed, and naturally held my hand. I had an 4 drip, and the hand with the needle was cold. She held it tight, her brows furrowed. Why is it so cold? I closed my eyes, wanting to pull my hand away, but she gently kept it in her palm. David. She called my name, and immediately my nose stung. Even with my eyes closed, tears started to well up, wanting to spill out. The company has been so busy lately, you know. I didn't respond, but she continued, but I just couldn't focus on work. David, these days, I didn't come to see you, because I've been thinking about why you suddenly want a divorce. I still didn't want to talk, but tears slowly rolled out. At first, I thought it was because of Linda, that's why you insisted on the divorce. I was so mad, not thinking clearly, and agreed. In her voice, there was even a hint of guilt. I couldn't help but look at her, Lucy. I know, David, it was my fault, for not understanding things. She was holding my hand, looking at me with deep regret in her eyes. I shook my head hard. She just doesn't understand why I demanded a divorce. I'm stubborn like that. I can't tolerate betrayal. I'd rather suffer alone than compromise on these matters. In these 2 years after marriage, I've been busy with work, neglecting you, and a lot of other things. I kept shaking my head. It's not because of work. I know how important a career is for a woman too. I've sent Jason abroad for school. His account will only have $500 a month. He'll have to work for anything beyond that. I was shocked. Lucy only has this one brother, and they've always been super close. She's been spoiling Jason all the time. $500 might be enough for an average student, but for the extravagant Jason, it's not enough for even a coat. If it weren't for you wanting a divorce, maybe I would have kept being in the dark. Lucy's face was very stern, but as she looked at me, there was also guilt and compassion. I never blamed her for these things, because Jason's always been a good actor. Whenever Lucy was around, he fooled everyone into thinking we had a great relationship. And because I didn't want her distracted by family issues, I never told her about Jason's two-faced behavior. After all, those childish antics didn't hurt me, and I could endure them. But me insisting on a divorce seemed to have popped this bubble, and in his arrogance, Jason showed his true colors in front of his sister. Whenever he grows up and learns to respect you as his brother-in-law, we can talk again. You don't have to do this. He just doesn't like me being his brother-in-law. It's not really a big offense. He doesn't like it, well, he'll have to. Doesn't accept it, well, he'll have to accept it. My husband is you, and only you. Lucy. But Evan, you've always liked him, haven't you? Who told you I liked him? She furrowed her brow, reaching out to flick my forehead lightly. Where did you hear those silly things? But, didn't you have pictures saved on your computer with him, and you even helped him with his divorce case? Last year, on my birthday, you said you were on a business trip, but you were having afternoon tea with him. I didn't even get a happy birthday from you. I'm stubborn and proud, with a silly little ego that just wouldn't let me ask such questions. Pictures? Yeah, the ones in your computer's saved photos. He's smiling so sweetly at you. You mean this one? She pulled out her phone, showing me a photo, the same one saved in her computer. I nodded hard. Yeah, that one. Lucy actually smiled. She rarely smiled. She's always been so rigid and serious. She's cold as ice, too. In over 2 years of marrying her, I could count the number of times she laughed on one hand. I couldn't help but feel a bit dazed looking at her. Lucy lifted her hand to take off her glasses and shook her head, chuckling. Then she reached out and touched my forehead hair, calling me a fool. That fool had a loving tone that made me feel all fuzzy inside. Take a good look at this photo again. In the background, who's that in the top left corner? She said. Hearing that, I quickly wiped my tears away and focused hard. In the top left corner, there seemed to be a couple. The girl was dressed in a tank top and pleated skirt, a pretty trendy look, and the guy next to her was tall, handsome, and stylish. They looked like a great match. But what shocked me was, is that me? I was stunned. How could I possibly be in this photo? Wait a minute, the person next to me, that looks like Linda. This must have been during my college days when I was dating Linda. Confused and surprised, I asked, Lucy, what's going on here? She explained calmly, I was at the university handling some stuff, just passing by the playground when I saw you. I was about to say hi, but then your girlfriend showed up. Her voice was light, but strangely, I sensed a bit of jealousy. You're bluffing. I didn't even know you back then. We only met during a blind date, I accused her. Lucy fixed her gaze on me. David, you broke your promise first. You forgot about me. I was completely lost. But Lucy seemed a little upset, her demeanor shifting back to her usual coolness. If you can't remember, forget it. Just rest well, she added before attempting to leave. I instinctively grabbed her sleeve, Lucy. Then I remembered, we've been divorced. I let go quickly. Lucy looked at her watch. I have an important meeting to get back to. You stay put here in the hospital. I'll pick you up in the afternoon and we'll see the doctor. As she got up to leave, I couldn't hold back my question, Lucy, is Evan really hospitalized? She looked back at me. Yes. My heart sank. Sitting on the hospital bed in blue striped pajamas suddenly made me feel very small and vulnerable. Lucy's gaze softened as she came over and touched my face. Don't overthink things. Just rest. The hospital got Evan in just in time. He's fine. Don't think too much about it. Even if something had happened, it wouldn't be your concern. Did she think I was worried about Evan's safety? I was too upset to talk and pushed her away, telling her to hurry to her meeting. She looked like she actually was in a rush, so she just told me to rest before leaving. Everything felt chaotic inside my head. I couldn't just stay in the hospital, not with her coming back to see the doctor with me. I didn't want to see her. So, I got dressed and left, going back home. I must have been really exhausted, because I fell asleep as soon as I took a shower and lay down. When I woke up, there were faint sounds outside. I rushed to get up and open my bedroom door. Awake? Lucy was standing by the dining table, looking at me. No shoes again. She walked over, looked at my bare feet, and frowned slightly before turning to get me some slippers. While kneeling to help me with them, I murmured her name, Lucy. The night Evan returned to the country, were you two together? She finished slipping on the slippers, then pulled me to sit by the table. David, I was working overtime at the office the whole night. You didn't lie? I never have. She brushed her hand gently against my face. David, you never wanted to believe me. On your birthday last year, you said you were on a business trip. That was true. Meeting him was an accident. He asked for a lawyer recommendation for his divorce case. That's how we ended up staying in touch. I didn't know who to believe. The way she said it, I had little choice but to believe her. Yet, Evan's Twitter posts, full of innuendo, indicated something else. Suddenly, I thought of something and went to grab my phone. Jason had sent me some screenshots that I had saved, but never dared to open. Take a look at these. I opened the screenshots and showed them to Lucy. She went through them silently, then took out her own phone. I watched her bring up Evan's profile. Evan's social media was set to show only the last 6 months, but his latest post was missing. Clearly, he had blocked Lucy from seeing it when he posted it. I began to understand. Even if Lucy wasn't interested in Evan, it was apparent Evan had feelings for her. When we met, I had confronted him about spending a night with another woman's husband and he hesitated before following my lead. It made sense now. Lucy hadn't lied to me. She hadn't been with Evan that night. Lucy's expression seemed a little displeased. Women clearly hate games like that from men. Maybe he's trying to rekindle an old flame. I couldn't help but feel a bit jealous. After all, Lucy and Evan had been college classmates. Jason had told me they were once close. Old flame? Lucy looked at me, annoyed. He and my best friend were the couple in college, the one standing next to him in the photo. I only helped because of that connection. She looked at me deeply. Later, she passed away due to an accident. Before she died, she asked me to look after Evan. His wife in America cheated while pregnant. That's why I lent him K Group's top lawyer. I immediately regretted my assumptions and apologized. I'm sorry, Lucy. I thought, what goes through your head all day? Lucy seemed irritated, pinching my face. David, I can barely handle one of you, and you think I want someone else? Her pinch hurt a bit, and I protested, I'm the one who's struggling with you. Her gaze softened. Suddenly scared, I covered my mouth. Since our divorce battle, we hadn't been intimate. I knew she had quite the appetite for it. I guess dinner can wait. Lucy took me by the hand, heading toward the bedroom. My heart raced. Just as she was starting to unbutton her shirt, I whispered, Lucy, you're pregnant, right? We can't do this, can we? Her hand stopped. Lying in my arms, she bit her lip nervously, my fingers twisted together behind her back like a pretzel. David, so, you fainted because you found out about all this? She rubbed my lower back, her long fingers sliding down my spine, hugging me tighter bit by bit. Why didn't you tell me? I was mad at you back then, thought you and Evan had a kid together. David. Lucy sounded frustrated and upset. Do you even have a clue? What? I'm your wife, and other men have nothing to do with me. Lucy, then tell me, did you marry me because you like me? I was getting all confused. If Lucy said any sweet words to me, I'd probably happily count money for her even if she sold me. Of course not. Lucy's words yanked me right out of my daydream. Because you're silly. Lucy seemed pretty exasperated. David, did you burn your brains in a high fever when you were a kid? A woman like her, so capable, she has everything under her control now. Even though her marriage might not be totally free, she still holds the reins. My family isn't poor, but compared to Lucy's family, we're nothing special. Why would Lucy marry me? My mom's business even relies on them. We can't offer her any help. I hugged her tight all of a sudden. Lucy, could it be you've been crushing on me all along? That's why you kept that old photo that's not even a proper photo of us together. Just as I said that, Lucy cupped my face with her hands and kissed me. I wanted to say something else, but she kissed me deeper. Pretty soon, I was totally out of it, feeling all weak and couldn't think of anything. In the end, we didn't go any further. Lucy lay on the pillow, blushing, while I went to the bathroom for a cold shower. Listening to the splashing water, I couldn't help but smile remembering the sweet moments earlier. The next day I took Lucy for her checkup. We just arrived at the OBGYN when we bumped into Evan. His face lit up at first, but as soon as he saw me, it turned gloomy, looking all pitiful. Lucy. But he quickly forced a smile and came over to us. I didn't really like him, but since I was holding onto Lucy's waist, even with Evan there, I didn't loosen my grip, so there was no reason to get upset. I'm usually not one to hold grudges. Some say it means I'm carefree, others say I'm just naive and shrug off any trouble. Evan acted like I wasn't there, chatting away with Lucy. Lucy, in a few days, our college classmates are having a reunion. You're coming, right? I haven't seen our old group in ages. Maybe not. Why not? Is the company keeping you busy? I'm pregnant and need David to be with me more. Lucy casually smiled at him. Anything else? We're heading for a checkup. Evan went pale, clearly not expecting this news, leaving him speechless for a bit. Lucy pulled me towards the exam room, ignoring Evan's stunned voice. Lucy, you guys didn't get divorced? Then what's with David? He stammered, purposely unclear as usual, his typical trick. I stayed quiet. Evan's mess was Lucy's to sort out. What are you trying to say? Or do you think I, Lucy, am dumb enough to be played like that? Lucy's words stung a bit. Lucy, I didn't mean it like that. I'm just worried about you getting tricked. Evan put on that sad puppy face again. I shook my head and said calmly, my wife does need to worry about getting tricked, wouldn't you say, Evan? David, what do you mean? Lucy and I, we've known each other for years. Why would I deceive her? I didn't respond, just smiled at Lucy. And Evan realized his slip-up, looking a bit regretful. Back then, you and Dino only dated, and when Dino left, he asked me to watch over you. These years, I've done my part. Evan, I just found out I'm pregnant. I need to rest without getting upset, so please, avoid saying misleading things around him in the future. Oh, and maybe cut back on those misunderstanding tweets. Finishing her piece, Lucy didn't wait for Evan's reply and led me right into the exam room. By the time we were done, Evan was gone. He probably won't bother you again. Lucy gently fixed my hair. David, from now on, no matter what happens, we need to communicate well. But you were always so busy, coming home late at night and leaving early, not giving me much time to see you. Probably because of that, she didn't quite know her family wasn't too fond of me. Her mom's presence kept her dad polite, even if he didn't like me. Lucy looked at me for a while, then pulled me close. I've got the Tim Garden villa ready for us. From today, we'll move and live on our own. Lucy, I didn't expect her to say that. She was an only daughter, and now with Jason sent abroad, she was her parents' only child here. I used to neglect things after marrying you, didn't care for you well, and let you suffer. Lucy lifted her hand, gently brushing my slightly red eyes. David, I'm really sorry. Tears welled up immediately. Lucy, I don't blame you. I could have done better too. If I were more mature and understanding, maybe your dad would appreciate me more. None of that really matters. As long as I like it, that's enough for me. Lucy gently wiped my tears, but more just kept coming. Lucy, am I just too childish? I can't be mature and independent like those guys. You don't need to be like them. Just be David. Suddenly, Lucy laughed and lifted her head slightly, her nose brushing against mine. You silly goose. Do you think any wife would want her husband to be seen like that by others? But I was wrong before. Going forward, anything you like, I won't interfere. Besides, there's another reason Lucy isn't too keen on letting David know. In college, David always dressed trendy, and Linda was super outgoing. They truly looked good together. So, after Lucy started dating David through a blind date, she used a little strategy to make David naturally change his style. David thought Lucy liked the gentle look, but for Lucy, it was about erasing anything connected to Linda. She looked at the guy in front of her, the one who cried at his dad's tombstone in the pouring rain, the boy who softened her heart and stayed in her thoughts. He had finally become her husband and soon would be the father of their child. She wanted him to stay innocent forever, to always be childlike. She'd protect all his beautiful qualities under the sky she created. So, are you jealous, Lucy? Tell me, are you jealous? I tugged at her collar playfully. Can't admit you're mesmerized by my charm? Worried about others seeing me? Aren't you? Aren't you afraid the baby will laugh at you when she can hear us? Lucy grabbed my hand, amused. Aren't you hungry? Want hot pot? She's just a little bean, she doesn't understand anything, I said, intertwining my fingers with hers. She's always the composed and serious type. I've never heard her use bad language. Though she frowned at my slightly rude words, she didn't say anything. I couldn't help but recall our time together, the little things I'd missed before, realizing she has always been patient and tolerant. All my little tantrums, my roughness, my messiness, and forgetfulness. Even though I wasn't home much, each time she did come back, no matter how late, she would kiss me even if I was deeply asleep. And in the morning, before leaving early for work, she'd always give me a peck. In the 2+ years of marriage, she wakes up at 6 every morning, but I, as her husband, rarely ever woke up early to make her breakfast. I suddenly felt I was truly inadequate. Stuck in my emotions, I magnified grievances and doubts, all while overlooking her silent contributions and tolerance. My insecurities made me unhappy and left her frazzled on top of her busy work life. Lucy. Getting into the car, I couldn't help but hug her gently. I seldom call her wife, except in intimate moments where she would insist. I pressed my face against her back, a sweet feeling replacing that strange bitterness. This is the woman I love, my wife, the mother of our child. How lucky am I to have married her? Are you okay? Lucy asked, a bit concerned, turning around to hold my shoulders. I shook my head and gestured for a hug. Before, when her feelings were uncertain to me, I tried to act cute. Now that I knew she cared, acting cute became a second instinct. Why are you such a baby? I just want to be with you. I didn't dare to before. Didn't dare? Lucy kissed my earlobe. Someone's always been too proud since we got married. No way. Don't take your blessings for granted. You can give this blessing to someone else. I don't want it. It's exhausting. Don't even think about it. It's yours alone. Lucy kissed me. Let's grab some food first, and we can settle up later. She led me to eat hot pot. Even though she didn't like the greasy environment, because I enjoyed it, she went along. After we'd eaten, ready to leave, I ran into Tony. Tony was there with a few friends eating hot pot too. The moment he saw Lucy and me holding hands, his eyes went a bit teary. We've been married for over 2 years, yet he still hasn't gotten used to it? Tony glared at me, looking like a pouting pufferfish. Honestly, despite our constant bickering, Tony's not the type to play dirty. So, really, there's no bad blood between us. But since we were kids, it's been a habit to tease him. Today was no exception. Passing by Tony, who was glaring at me, he asked, David, you guys made up? I nodded, yep, we did. Though Tony was jealous and upset, he muttered, guess you're not entirely stupid. By the way, you mentioned on the phone before that Lucy married someone randomly after getting her heart broken. Tony glanced at Lucy nervously, as if to explain something, but I carried on smugly. Sorry to inform you, she was heartbroken over me. What are you saying? Tony looked disbelieving, eyes about to pop out of his head. Lower your voice, you'll scare the baby inside Lucy, I whispered, pulling Lucy closer, my hands protectively over her belly. Lucy willingly collaborated, snuggling against me. Lucy, you're pregnant? Tony looked shocked. But didn't they say Lucy didn't like you and refused to have your kids? Who said that? I didn't respond first. Lucy seemed angry already. Her face was stony, making Tony a bit panicky, and he stammered, they say that. Jason too. I only heard it. I didn't say it. You think I, Lucy, would marry a man I don't like? Tony shook his head quickly, almost in tears. I tugged on Lucy's sleeve. Come on, I'm tired. Let's head home. Lucy didn't say anything else and wrapped her arm around me as we left. I turned my head back in her embrace and told Tony, you're actually really handsome. You'll definitely have a great woman who really likes you. Tony was used to sparring with me and instinctively wanted to snap back, but he held back for Lucy's sake. It's funny how being wrapped up in happiness makes you more easygoing. I was even willing to give my lifelong rival Tony a blessing. When Lucy hit the 3-month pregnancy mark, the doctor said everything looked great. The baby was developing well. He subtly hinted we could be physically intimate again. But Lucy felt a bit shy since her belly was starting to show and her waist wasn't as slim as before. That night, after Lucy took a shower and we went back to our room, she hid under the covers, refusing to show her face. Not until I finished my shower. I pulled back the covers, still fresh and cool from the shower. She was too shy to look at me, even though we were no strangers to each other as a married couple. But in that moment, it felt like our first time all over again. It went on for what seemed like ages until we heard the gentle sound of rain outside, and then everything calmed down. She snuggled into me, too lazy to speak, comforted by my presence. I yawned sleepily, pulling her close, and mumbled, I'm so tired. When the baby arrives, I'm gonna scold them first for their mom always picking on me. I must have fallen asleep right after, because I didn't hear Lucy whisper in my ear. Silly, because I love you and like you, I always want to tease you like this. Epilogue. When I was 16, my mom started getting close to a guy and even thought about marrying him. I didn't mind my mom remarrying, but I couldn't accept that it was the man my dad hated the most when he was alive. Dad told me that man had liked my mom before, but my mom only had eyes for my dad. Even when they were set to marry, that guy tried to sow discord so Dad would break off the engagement. But my mom was oblivious to his schemes. My parents eventually got married and had me. The guy gave up and got married a few years later. Now, he's divorced and back in town. He heard my dad passed and that mom never remarried, so he reached out again. I just couldn't take it. During that time, it was like mom was possessed, and she even hit me when I argued with her. That was the first time she ever hit me. I ran out in tears and in the rain to the cemetery to find Dad. I cried for a long time at his grave, holding my favorite bunny. It was a stray I took in, an orphan like me. I raised it tenderly, despite losing my dad. We were both orphaned. I used to have a mom, but now it felt like I lost her too. I promised the bunny it'd just be us from now on. That's the day I first met Lucy. The cemetery was empty except for the two of us, both soaked, visiting lost loved ones. Maybe it was my pitiful crying that drew her over. She held an umbrella for me and used her handkerchief to wipe my rain-soaked face. I clutched my bunny and sniffled, asking her, Big sis, don't you think it's really sad for kids without dads? Other kids can cry in their dad's arms, but I can only cry to his grave and picture. You have to be strong. If your dad knew, he'd be heartbroken, she said, her eyes full of sympathy. But I don't want to be strong. Why do I have to be? Just because I don't have a dad, does that mean I don't have the right to cry? What's your name? David. Alright, David, if you ever feel upset, come talk to me, okay? Really, sis? Of course, you can. Whenever you need me, I'll be there. 22-year-old Lucy had just lost her beloved grandparents and was drowning in sorrow. In the rain, she gently hugged the forlorn, soggy teenager, David. They were like two forlorn souls adrift at sea, sharing a glimpse of warmth that day. But Lucy never knew why I never called or reached out to her. After leaving the cemetery, I didn't go home. I went to the apartment my dad left me. When Mom found me, I'd been drenched for a day and a night, burning up with a fever that nearly drove me delirious. I woke in the hospital 3 days later. My clothes had been washed, and Lucy's note was long gone. I felt like I forgot something but figured it was just fever dreams. When I recovered, I completely forgot about that encounter. What I didn't know was that illness affected my health permanently. Mom was overwhelmed with guilt. Once she understood why I objected, she broke it off with that man. She showered me with love and spoiled me, partly out of guilt and also because the illness changed my personality. I used to be sensitive and mature beyond my years, but after recovering, I became carefree and always cheerful. Even with my nemesis Tony, I wasn't as harsh as before. I was lucky to have a mom who truly cared for me, and even luckier to marry a woman who would protect my childlike innocence for life. As for me, perhaps I'd never realize I wasn't truly a healthy man. But regardless, I'm incredibly happy and joyful. Later, when our son turned 3, Lucy got pregnant again and gave birth to a beautiful daughter. I gave her the nickname Emily. Lucy loved our daughter more than our son. My mom used to say Emily and I looked exactly the same when we were little, and we were just so adorable and cute. By that time, I was already a dad of 2 kids, but the more I was with Lucy, the more I got attached to her. I even got a bit jealous cause she spoiled Emily so much. That night, I blocked the master bedroom door and wouldn't let her in. Lucy tried to sweet-talk me for a while, and finally, she said she'd trade a secret for me to open the door. I unlocked the door and asked her what the secret was. Then she told me the story of our first meeting. I started crying halfway through. I missed my dad. I also missed that rabbit that kept me company. We both got soaked in the rain. I survived, but it left me forever. I missed Lucy then too, 22-year-old Lucy, the one who held me in the rain and let me cry my heart out. I wish I hadn't forgotten her. How nice would it have been if we loved each other back then? 6 years just flew by like that. David. Lucy held my face and kissed each tear away. Did you know I've been waiting for you since you were 16? I waited for you to call me, to look for me, until I almost gave up. Then I saw you at school. You had a girlfriend, and when you walked past me, you didn't even glance my way. You were all about Linda. Do you know how jealous I was? Later, I found out by chance that the guy I was supposed to meet blind dating was named David. I thought I should go and see if it was you. She hugged me tight like I was a long-lost treasure. I'm so glad it was you. She sighed softly, her fingers gently brushing the tears from my eyes. The moment I saw you, I wanted to marry you, make you stay by my side forever. Lucy. I lowered my head, hugged her waist, and kissed her while sobbing. You have to love me the most, forever and always, not more than Emily. Okay. Lucy responded to my kiss. Lucy will only love David, love him the most in this life. You're a troublemaker. How am I a troublemaker? I was only 16 then. I pouted a bit. Were you checking me out? I was very handsome back then. So many girls at school had crushes on me. You were really handsome, but seeing you in a white shirt in a cemetery freaked me out at first. Lucy. I playfully knocked her. Lucy looked at me, her eyes full of affection and indulgence. But even if you were a ghost, I'd still accept it. David. I love you. More than you love me, and even earlier than that.